Hello, it's James here from Brixx. Today I'd like to run through the Brixx dashboard. If you're not familiar with Brixx, we do cash flow forecasting software and business modeling software. So I'd like to show you a bit more about the dashboard, which is a really great visual way of looking at the future of your business. So let's dive in and take a look. Right now I've got a completely empty forecast. I've set up a plan, a 3-year plan starting in 2019. Right now I'm just looking at the first 12 months of that plan. If I use the drop down at the top, I can set it to show the entire plan. I think for the majority of this I'm just going to be looking at the first 12 months so that we're not looking at too much data at once. So the biggest chart at the top is the cash flow chart, which is a really important chart and it's really useful. It shows your total cash at any one period and your total income and costs in bar chart format as well. So if I get some numbers running, you can see this in action. In this product I'll just set it to a simple £3,000 per month and we can see it working. So now we've got £3,000 per month coming in on these green bars each period, and the cash line is accumulating this amount each month, and you can see the total at the end, which matches up with your final cash number here. And this is the final cash for the period that we're looking at. So if I set it to 2020, you can see the starting cash is actually the ending cash of 2019, and you can see that coming through to the end here, which has added that up as well. So let's get some costs going in as well. If I just set this to 50% of income, we can see some costs coming through now, which has adjusted my final cash and added in some costs too. The funding requirements is 0 at the moment because at no point do we go into negative cash. The funding requirements is meant to be an indicator of where you're going into negatives in the future and you're going to need to find some way of plugging that gap. So let's show you how that would work. If I go to another cost, I'm just going to add a cost into rent here. It doesn't really matter, it's just an example. So let's have a big cost hitting us in May. Let's get enough zeros in there. Okay, so we've got this massive cost here upcoming in May, and we've got some funding requirements coming in here, which is reflected at the end of this period in May. And this is going to be taking into account the cash that was already accumulating before we got to May, and then you take that away from the costs coming in here and you'll get your funding requirements. So that's a really useful tool if you're perhaps you're a startup and you're looking at your startup costs. It's going to give you an indication for how much funding you're actually going to have to go out and get from investors. And if you're an existing business, if you're trying out new projects in future, you can get an indication of how much they're going to cost and whether your business can afford it or not. So that's the top area of the dashboard. I will just show you at this point as well. You can view this entire dashboard in quarterly and yearly views as well, although when you're looking at it yearly you need to set it to show multiple years, otherwise it's just going to show one period there. I'm just going to be looking at it monthly for most of this video because it's usually the most useful way to be looking at it. Let's just get rid of this big cost for the moment because that's going to affect our numbers. So moving down the page, we've got our cost breakdown chart, which at the moment is just showing one cost, which is our cost of sales, here, and the way that was working, I probably went through this too quickly earlier. We had a product that's selling £3,000 per month, and if I go to my direct cost, I have that set so that it's 50% of that income is coming through as a direct cost, and this might be material costs for buying that product before I can sell it, or any other costs related to that income, directly related to that income. Now what this chart is going to show, it's going to show the breakdown of all the different types of costs in your business. So if I go back to my rent, which is a standard operational cost, and I'm just going to fill this with £1,000 per month. So now we've got two different types of costs going on, and you can see the cost of sales there and the operational costs here. And there are a number of different costs in Brixx, and you'll see them all reflected here. So another common type is going to be your salaries. So let's give this chap a nice generous salary, or not so generous. There we go. So we've got your staff costs as well reflected here, and that's just quite useful to see what costs are contributing the most in your business. Staff costs is often one of the biggest, so it's quite useful. To the right of that we have loan repayments. So this is obviously related to loans. Now let's get some numbers running in a loan, because judging by my dashboard at the moment I'm going to have to borrow some money. So let's get 100,000 and a 10% interest rate so that we can see some interest working, and I'll save that. Okay, so now you can see quite a few things happening. In the cash flow chart we've got a massive drawdown at the start of the plan for our £100,000 loan. The cost breakdown chart has now been completely dominated by our repayments each month, because this loan component automatically calculates the repayments for you, and I'll show you how those work in a second. And in this lighter blue colour here, we've also got the interest split out, and now you can see that a bit more clearly in the actual loan repayments chart. You can see the capital and the interest split out, and this is a 3-year loan, so it actually lasts for the entire plan. And just to show you how this can work, if right now we're on decreasing payments as a repayment method, so as you can see, the repayment each month is getting lower. The capital repayment is the same every period, but the interest is dropping because the outstanding balance is dropping. So if we change that to fixed payments, which is compound, what that is going to do is going to set it so that it's equal repayments every single period. And this chart is great for visualizing this, because you can see the interest is dropping each period as more of the loan is paid back, whilst the capital increases in order to keep the repayment the same each period, because that's what we've asked it to do. And finally we have the interest only bullet loan, which is interest only, and the interest is absolutely tiny compared with this final £100,000 capital repayment at the end. So if we just turn off capital, now we can see the interest coming through. They are there, they're just only a pixel high, so you can't actually see them. So that's how the loan repayments work. And if you had multiple loans going on, actually let me just copy these, make a copy of the first one, and that'll be more interesting. So for example, if we had multiple loans, and they're all coming in at different times. I'm just using our timeline at the moment to quickly demonstrate that. Then we're in bullet loans. Let me just change that to something that will be more visually interesting on our chart. See, now we've got an interesting situation where we've got loans starting and ending each year of the plan, and you can see how this loan repayment chart can become more interesting if that's an important part of your business forecasts. So that's the loan repayments chart. Let's keep going down the page onto asset value. Let's turn off these loans because they're creating quite interesting numbers that it's going to be hard for us to keep track of. So the asset value chart is actually a reflection of one of our reports, which is the balance sheet. And what it's going to show is the top half of the balance sheet, essentially, which, as you can see, we don't actually have any numbers posting there just yet. So I'm going to add another product in to get our income higher. Hopefully this will be enough, 5,000 per month. Okay, yep, our cash is going up now. So that's the first part of the balance sheet, which is your total cash, which is actually an asset to your business. We're looking at things that judge the value of your business, and the amount of cash you have in the bank account is one of those. So one of the next common things that's going to appear on this chart are assets. So vehicles, buildings, big things that have value like computers and that sort of thing. So let's add an asset in, and you can see that in action. Let's buy a £5,000 computer. So you can see, so to start with, if we return this to the first 12 months, so you can see that we've got an increased cost here in the first month for assets. You can see if we look at the tooltip for the second month, we don't have assets, but in the first month we do, because that's the month that we purchase it. But on this chart, assets appear on every single month, and that's because we're not looking at the cost side of it. We're not looking at the money going out of your account or anything like that. We're looking at the value added to your business. So because I haven't set any depreciation, you're seeing the same amount every period. But now I've got some depreciation. You can see the value dropping over time. And if we look at the dashboard, you can see that again. If I just remove cash, you can see it more clearly. There we go. So you can see that value dropping over time. So that's assets. You'll see assets on here. You'll also see your inventory, if you have any inventory. So here at the start I was using a direct cost, but you can also have inventory connected to your products. So let's say again the cost is, well, let's say it's 50% like it was on this direct cost, and I buy 6 months worth of stock in advance. Yep, here we go. So I'll turn off all the other items except inventory so you can see that. You can see the inventory amount held on your balance sheet now, and that's how much we had to buy to cover the income that we're selling. And it will stay at that value, because the way this component works is that it's always purchasing enough to cover your sales, so that you'll always have that amount of inventory each month. And if you wanted to enter your own amounts of stock that you hold every period, you can use the manual entry option if you don't want it to calculate automatically based on your income. But this sort of thing is covered in other guides. It's not really the purpose of this video. Let me just cancel that for the moment. So that was it. Inventory, accounts receivable. This is actually set in your starting position in the opening balance. If you have any cash owed to you before the plan starts, that's what's going to trigger this. And that's for your starting position. And this sort of thing is covered more in our opening balance guides, so I won't linger too much on that. And finally, on this chart we have investments, and this is another component that I don't have in this plan just yet, so I'll add one in. And this is investments the business makes with its money. So I can invest an amount of cash and get a return. Well, I can have that investment grow over time, which is more relevant for this chart actually because it's showing value, and you can also receive a certain amount from this investment every period as well. But what you're going to see here is the initial amount, and then if you've got it growing, then it will show that growth over time. And if you receive any return from that investment, you'll see that in this chart here. And as you can see, as we've been going along with our inventory purchases and asset purchases, it's also added this to the cost breakdown chart. So you can see how this could reflect your entire business. Right, so that is the asset value chart. And finally we have the break-even chart. So this is going to show you how much money you're going to need to make in order to get back how much money you put into the business. Now this is going to be a lot easier if we just turn off a lot of the numbers that we've been playing with so far. So I'm just going to turn off most things. So we've been playing with assets, and let's turn off the staff, and then we've also been adding things here. So the little round button next to it, any item, is actually a toggle. You can use it for toggling items on or off in your outputs. So we've been messing around quite a lot. I'm actually just going to remove what we did in the opening balance as well, just to clean this up a little bit so we can see what's going on. Right, so let's, as an example, let's pretend, and let's turn this off as well. Let's pretend that we're a startup and we have some startup costs, and let's do that in the first month. Let's enter £60,000 into the first month. And sorry, I've still got some products coming in here which I didn't want. And we've still got some rent coming in, I believe. There we go. Right. So our startup costs are £60,000. Right now, you can see that on the break-even chart. And let's have a look at this untouched product so far. And I'm going to enter 10,000 per month. And now we've got some interesting information. It's saying that I need £60,000. I need to make £60,000 before I break even, which makes sense because I put £60,000 in at the start, and that's going to happen in June. So I've got £10,000 coming in every month. So 6 months into the plan, I get to 60,000, and that's how much money I'll need to make. So that's a really simple example. It's meant to show you how long it's going to take before you make your money back. And as you start to add more complicated numbers, it gets more interesting and more useful. So even if we just add a 50% cost of sales to this product that we're selling, so now we've only got 5,000. We're only making 5,000 every month, so it's going to take twice as long for us to make our money back. So you can see that we're going to have to make £120,000 worth of sales now, and that's not that's going to push us back to December. So you can see as you put in all of your costs of your business, and you forecast all of your projected sales over the next period, then you'll be able to tell and get a really nice indication of when you might actually make your money back, which is one of the really useful things about Brixx. So that's all the charts. There's probably one more pretty powerful feature I'd like to show you about the dashboard. So if I just turn back on all of the things I was playing with, which is probably going to turn this into quite a big mess, but it's probably quite a good way of showing off this feature actually. So we've got numbers coming in from all parts of the plan now. Let's turn this back on as well. And you can see our cost breakdown chart is nice and colourful. We have this drop down here, which is a really useful way of drilling into your dashboard. You can see we've got a list of items here, which actually reflects the list of items on the left. And if I hit sales now, what this is going to do, it's just showing me the numbers for what's in this sales section. And this is going to become really obvious when I go to some of the other ones. If I go to funding, you can see now my loan repayments chart is populated, and you can see the cash impacts for that loan, or however many loans I had active there. And again, if I go to assets, you can see my initial asset purchase at the start, and my investments as well, because I had the investment set up in that group there as well. Now the other part of it is that you can go further. So in this section here, our sales, we've actually got two groups, sales group 1 and sales group 2. So let's just look at sales. There we go. And I don't have any numbers in this sales group 2, so I'll add some numbers here. There we go. When I hover over this bar, you can see I'm now breaking this down by sales group 1 and sales group 2, and I can use the second drop down to select sales group 1, and now I'm just looking at this part of my group, and you can see I've got numbers coming through in all these products, and I've got costs. I've got some different costs as well, and now the chart is breaking the tooltips on this bar is breaking that down by component, which is the lowest level of detail we have. And I can select group 2, which just shows the one income, because I haven't added any costs into this one. I've just got this product at the top, which is producing 5,000 every month. And then we can go all the way back to the top by clicking entire plan again, and we're looking at the entire plan, as strange as this plan looks. So you've got quite a few ways of slicing up your data now. You can view different periods, and you can view different parts of your plan for those periods, and you can view them monthly or quarterly. And I've probably picked the most uninteresting part of this plan to show now, but you get the impression of what you can do here. And you can also download any of these charts with this button here, and you can download them as images basically. So that just about runs through everything to do with the dashboard. We cover quite a lot there. Don't worry if I was a bit too fast on a lot of the data entry. That we do have guides that cover all areas of the interface, so hopefully you've got a good overview of what the Brixx dashboard can do for your business. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you again for the next video.